What? I'm not even gonna finish that one because it was just ridiculous.
No! God, please, no!
Today I thought we'd do something a bit different just because we haven't had a lot of new films lately. The beginning of the year is always incredibly weird. There's not a lot of things to talk about when it comes to films and TV series as well. So I decided to look back to one of my favorite things from last year, and that was The Wheel of Time. There are not a lot of people who actually talked about it. It has to do mostly with the fact that The Witcher came right after, and of course the production value of The Witcher and just the adult tone attracted a lot more people and discourse, meaning that the last few episodes and people didn't actually pay attention to it.
Where the fuck are my swords?
Fucking politics!
Go fuck yourself, you whoreson, 'cause you're through fucking with me.
Yo, scum. And it's a bit of a shame, I think, because I think we've got something quite special here, something that feels quite different and something that is quite fun. I'm not gonna give you my review of the series itself today. I am gonna be specifically talking about one scene which I loved so much. It felt like something that I had never seen before. It felt beautifully choreographed, of course, it felt beautifully staged. It had a lot of emotional resonance, and I thought that we could take a look at it today, break it down in a lot of different ways, watch it together. And just the fact that fantasy shows and medieval shows are allowing us to tell weird and different stories, and I'm all here for it.
Do you think we'll ever go back?
Home? No.
So let's put the headphones on and actually let's have a look at this scene here, which is from episode 7. There are not gonna be a lot of spoilers because it is a kind of a flashback. It is a scene that stands on its own quite well. But anyways, let's put these on. Damn, these are actually really good. I can barely hear anything.
Patrick, are you deaf?
And turn on the scene, which is actually 5 minutes long. This is my first reaction video on something that I've actually already seen. Let's see how it turns out and if anyone is actually interested in it, because it could be quite fun. Running around in the snowy landscapes. Damn, I really love the cinematography and just the whole look that this series has. It's really cool. I actually don't understand why people have been criticizing the production design when it comes to Wheel of Time and calling it quite cheap. Mostly because people have been comparing it way too much to Game of Thrones, meaning that it is almost impossible to uphold that kind of standard, you know? But I think the fantasy series shouldn't be judged because of like the best things that we got a lot of different years ago. But anyways, here's the action starting, so I probably should stop talking and actually addressing what is going on here. So we've got this pregnant warrior. Oh, this is so fucking cool. This is why I decided to put it in the thumbnail, because it's one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. So this woman here is clearly almost going on labor. She's really pregnant, and just the incredible amount of violence that is going on right now, just spears and blood gushing everywhere, while at the same time we've got the stakes of having a character who has to protect herself but also the baby at the same time. So we've got double the stakes, I think. This is exactly why I decided to go with this scene here, because these are the kind of stakes that we don't usually get to see, you know. I decided to pick this scene mostly because I feel like when it comes to representation of pregnancy and of pregnant women, we have this kind of idea that we just look down on them and we just ask them to sit down and rest as much as possible, and we don't really take them into consideration as their own person. We just kind of consider them to be vessels for a new life. So we try to protect that baby as much as possible. If you were a warrior, if you were a badass, you would still a warrior and a badass. And I feel like when it comes to popular culture, that's something that is really kind of looked down upon. Of course, the choreography is incredibly cool. I will actually be addressing how this whole scene was shot later on when we're done looking at it, but I love just how bloody and R-rated it is. I absolutely love all these mid shots in between the different action stunts where we actually get those point of view feelings when it comes to the main actress here, so that we don't only relate to her as being in danger, but also as her who is in labor, who's under probably a shit ton of pain right now. And I just love that the camera and the director actually took the time to show us that kind of pain. So she killed one of them and now it's in a 1v2. I love also how the fact that she's literally fighting two she's literally fighting two completely armored soldiers. I like this moment here where she's biting the guy, mostly because this is the moment where her pain has almost overcome entirely her body, so she just stopped her action. She couldn't like dispose of that guy as quickly as she did for all the other ones. And the other soldier, he took that advantage to actually like grab her like that and to kill her, of course. And I like that. That's one of those things where it doesn't break realism, you know? Like, we know that she's in pain. We know that this is already like stretching sort of like the realm of reality of what we're supposed to expect from this kind of woman here. But these tiny moments here where we get to see that she isn't actually in complete control of her body, it just signals to us that this is a real person, you know? And it's not like a cartoon character who is doing what a script is telling her to do just because it looks cool. When she gets stabbed from the side, first thing that we think is that it's not only she's about maybe to die, the baby's in danger once again. This kind of like just makes her go completely insane. The fact that she realizes that in just a couple of microseconds, you know, where like, oh, I got stabbed. But not only I got stabbed, I got a deep stab wound next to my belly where the child is, meaning that it was a double worry there. And as soon as she realized it, she went onto like a crazy rage rampage and she actually managed to kill the guy. Really, really cool once again, to motivate kind of action through emotion. From what I've read when it comes to the interview of this scene here, this is not present in the book, by the way. I've read the book and I don't remember this scene at all. This is a good example of how to introduce new things to sort of like expand on the things that we know when it comes to different characters and their backstories, etc. This is the most fucked up thing I've ever seen, just because I would never expect it to happen right now in this like battleground. She literally rips out her... Oh yeah, I will pause it here because I want to finish my sentence. She rips out her dress to, literally she wants to give labor there, like in the middle of the battleground where she's completely covered in blood. I don't know, just when I saw it for the first time, I was just like, this is intense. Like, I was really identifying to this character so much. I was just like, oh wow, she's really gonna go through it like right now. She has to do it right now. Oh fuck. And this is just like one of those tiny things where I'm just like, it's really cool to show how it doesn't matter how skilled you are, sometimes you don't have control on what's happening on your body. And I'm pretty sure that actually the stab wound actually forced or sped up the labor, and that's why it is happening right now. Because I think I read somewhere, or I must have seen it in another film, of course, because why not? I learned most of my shit through films. And I saw that extreme trauma or stress can actually speed up the pregnancy and can speed up the labor process. So I'm pretty sure that's what actually happening here. I love this scene because you don't know what's gonna happen. Nice cut to black. Really, really nice cut to black. Here we get a reference, by the way, to the sword that Rand is actually carrying. So now we know that this is Rand's adoptive father, and he has laid down the sword. Oh, bless her. I just really love that that tiny look that she gives to him, being like, oh, like, you're not gonna kill me, you're actually gonna help me. It must be a really emotional moment, because like, it is kind of, I've never been in a battle, of course, but it must be a roller coaster of emotion, of adrenaline mixed with rage, mixed with pain, mixed with the internal pain that she was going through. And it's just really cool to go through all these kind of emotions just through a very small scene, which is just like 5 minutes. And here is actually holding her hands, you know, to help her through the labor. I mean, help her, he's not doing anything, he's just like being present there, you know, which is enough. For some people it is enough. Really cringy CGI baby, I will admit it. And this is the moment where she actually dies, and this is then the backstory of how Rand was actually adopted by an ex-soldier turned farmer.
That baby was something impossible.
So that was basically it when it comes to the scene that I wanted to show you. I was probably talking way too much. Maybe like, if you want to actually enjoy this scene by yourself, I really encourage you to watch The Wheel of Time, because I feel like coming at your mouth with your blah blah blah, zip your lip like a padlock. Within the context itself, it is a really strong scene, but something that I really like when it comes to The Wheel of Time is that just before the intro sequence that is happening every single episode, we tend to get a lot of these kind of scenes, like these kind of scenes that are supposed to grab you and make you understand like everything is going on into this world. Very often they use these scenes to do more world building, so these scenes are not always focused on our main characters, but they are telling stories of secondary characters just to explain basically what it feels like to inhabit this world. And I just really love it, because it does work. It does make you feel that this world is much bigger than we actually see it as it is right now. It was directed by Kieran Donnelly, and it is starring the character of Aoife Grain, who is actually Rand's mother. And this is a bit of a spoiler, of course, but anyways, she's not really part of the series itself. This is the only time that we see her through this flashback here. One thing that I wanted to talk about, which you probably noticed as well, is how smooth all the different camera movements are. And there is a very specific reason, is that the director himself, he asked for a specific camera, which is called the Bolt. It's not very often that it is used to shoot TV shows and episodes like this, but he had to ask for it because this machine is basically able to move from one shot to the next in basically microseconds. So it does allow you to follow the movements of the actors without actually having to cut and break down the scene. Because very often when you're shooting action, you can notice it, for example, when it comes to older actors who are playing characters in action movies. If you look at the action sequences, you will notice that there are a lot of different cuts, one after the other. They try to speed up the editing as much as possible so that it feels more exciting. Sometimes they actually speed up the footage to show you that the person is running at a faster pace than it actually is. Actually, very often when they're doing stunt sequences, they tend to either do slow motion or they speed them up so that you don't notice that basically when someone is punching someone else, he's actually missing it by like 3 or 4 centimeters or something like that. But just to say that here they do the opposite approach. They try to do as many slow long takes as possible. This is thanks to the camera itself, and funny enough, it is the choreographers and the stunt coordinators themselves who have to adapt to the camera movements and not the opposite, because basically this is just a robot, meaning that the robot is gonna go through the path that it needs to go through, and the stunt characters have to be careful just not to be in the way, otherwise they're just gonna be knocked out. And that's why also this almost feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like a TV show, even though like the production design is kind of minimalistic because we don't see a lot of huge armies. We do see kind of little Rembrandts everywhere on the scene of things that are burning, of blood a bit everywhere, or people that are dead. But at the end of the day, it is minimal when it comes to the production design, but it does feel incredibly realistic just because of all the different camera movements that we got here. Of course, the stunt actress herself, she's basically giving an incredible performance here. The director found her in Prague. Her name is Madeleine Madden, and they built the entire scene around her, and thanks to her. This scene actually took 5 days to shoot it, and they were shooting from day until night, and it's actually quite interesting when I saw the interview to see how intense it was. And I'm pretty sure that 5 days is an incredible amount of time to shoot these kind of scenes here, and it does pay off. I think that this scene here is almost much better than the entire episode that we see right after, which is kind of insane. I really love this scene. I really love this scene, and I wanted to share it with you. And this actually sent me into an interesting research, into a weird journey and adventure, into trying to figure out whether this had been done in the past. Especially because last year I saw an interesting film that was called Prevenge, which was basically about a very pregnant woman who became a serial killer because her baby was telling her to kill people, basically. And that's what motivated me to go deep into researching other characters who were incredibly pregnant but still presented as just normal human beings who kept doing their job in the best ways possible. I didn't even remember this, but of course Frances McDormand from the Coen brothers Fargo, she was incredibly pregnant during that film there. Another good example is of course in the very recent and bombastic Mad Max Fury Road, in which 2 of the wives are actually very pregnant, and it does not prevent them from being incredibly cool and badass. Another funny one I completely forgot was the pregnancy of Piper in the cult classic Charmed, and basically the unborn child gave her a force field to protect herself against other demons.
Not nice to piss off Mother Nature.
Once again, really cool. I wish I could have a force field on a daily basis. It could be quite useful, to be honest. Of course, I cannot forget Vala Maduran from Stargate SG-1, who was also incredibly pregnant at some point, but it still didn't stop her from joining the rebellion and trying to contact the SGU to tell her about the fact that the Ori were planning an invasion.
And why would they burn you alive this time?
Getting pregnant out of wedlock.
You're pregnant?
Yes!
Another cool example would be Death Stranding and the fact that Sam is constantly going around carrying this unborn baby with him. Tend to prioritize that kind of image of the motherly pregnant woman, the attentive, the safe pregnant woman. I'm just really happy when we get to see different kind of representations, just to show that it is kind of incredibly normal thing that you can keep being yourself despite the fact that you have an alien thing growing inside your body.
Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I pargant? Am I gregnant? Am I pegnate? Help!
I thought I would end this video with two real-life, actual, badass women, just because we talked a lot about pop culture, but we haven't talked about real life, and maybe let's talk about it. Of course, I've read a couple of articles actually about so many incredible athletes who were 6, 7, 8 months pregnant and completed insane marathons. Honestly, kudos to you. Another example would be Saraya Knight, who is a wrestler, and she actually wrestled while 7 months pregnant with her daughter Paige for quite some time. And it's just really badass to show how the human body can withstand so many things and how you can still just practice what you love and be yourself for as long as possible. But anyways, don't take this video as like a weird nobody guy who is giving you advice about pregnant women. I just wanted to talk about a weird trend when it comes to representation of pregnant women in pop culture. I really think it was interesting, and I hope that you find it interesting yourself. I of course recommend Wheel of Time because I had a really good time. It is actually improving on the book itself, especially when it comes to the final act. So if you are in love with the book, you can safely watch the series because it is a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was once again something weird, because I love doing this weird concepts here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every like that you drop down here will be another baby born in the world. No, don't do that. No, no, we don't need a shit ton of babies. I mean, we do have a lot of babies already. Like, we don't need to add more just by liking this video. Let's say that every like is another point of recognition for a badass pregnant woman out there in the real world. Yeah. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. I like that. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart. Da 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 da.